This is what they don't plaster all over the media.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful morning. I just got off work about an hour and some change ago, and I can't go to any website or news station or anything without seeing Charlie Kirk plastered all over the TV and people turning this into left, right, purple, up, green, down, blue. And it's crazy because did you know that there was a school shooting this morning? Some teenagers killed. But I didn't know about that shit. A lot of people don't know about a lot of shit going on today because Charlie Kirk. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about how this is so sad and this is tragic and this and that. And when I first heard of the shooting, I was surprised because I heard of Charlie Kirk, but I never heard this dude speak. And I think I know why. I think I heard him a long time ago and just got so off put by it that instinctually I stopped listening to him. So I did what most people do. I went down the rabbit hole. First video, women ain't human, they don't deserve rights. Black people are murderers. Black people don't deserve reparations. Ghetto thug. George Floyd got what he was looking for. I mean, just the nigga. I like when people go that hard. I then in my mind think like, okay, is this dude just like making money, which is what they call shrills? Like, is this one of them dudes that like is secretly you go to his house and he's like, praise Jesus, I'm the most loving person ever. I love anybody. They're welcome. But in the media is like a psychopath for money or so. I don't know. That's what I start to think about because I keep telling y'all. I'm not in the mind frame that most of these people are in. I can't really fathom hating somebody inherently because they're not my skin color. That's crazy to me. Matter of fact, I was just thinking about this. I really wish I had a British neighbor, a Dutch neighbor. I wish I had an African neighbor. I wish I had a Hispanic neighbor. I wish I had all them neighbors. I don't know if any of you do this, and I wouldn't call this prejudice, but if it offends people, I would try to work on it. And I started to notice this. Whenever I talk to people with certain accents or when they're from another country, I'll start to talk like this. Why did they do that? What is going on? What are they doing? Like I'll start to talk like basic and shit and stuff. And I got to work on that because real talk, that's a form of like prejudice. Once I start to see, and I can see the prejudices within myself, not going off deep end, but realize that could be offensive the way I talk to people in the Arabic community, in the African community, different communities. I could hear it even in the European accents. It almost sounds Russian, like they will, and I start to do it, and I can hear it sometimes. Just like, no, stop doing that, bro. That's you being funny, and it's not even so much being funny. It's like trying to cater. And that's why I try to tell people sometimes when you try too much for black people, you know, them people that they done jumped off the left side of the bridge and shit. You know what I mean? It starts to look fake. It starts to look vain. But predominantly I want to talk about this Charlie Kirk situation. And I watched the videos. They was bleeping it at first, but I watched it. That man was hitting an artery that leads to the brain. And that shit exploded. And a little something about medical science. Once you cut off the blood flow in the body for whatever reason and you start to lose blood, what ends up happening is you lose oxygen to those certain immediate areas. Well, when you lose oxygen to the brain, your brain cells die. And the reason why that happens is the reason we have energy, and a lot of people don't know this, is from breathing, the breath of life. And what happens is oxygen goes into the body as a molecule, O2. When it goes into the spot that it's supposed to be, actually, if you ingest just plain oxygen, O1, it's actually poisonous. It's crazy, right? But when you ingest O2, it goes through the blood, through the hemoglobin, and it absorbs the oxygen into the bloodstream. That's when blood turns red. When it gets to the location that it's supposed to be at, the blood cell gives off the nutrients that it receives from food, the food we eat, and it also lets off oxygen and different things. Well, when that happens, the mitochondria, I believe it is the powerhouse of the cell. What it does is it's called a electron transport chain within a cellular structure. And what it does is it splits the oxygen apart. Well, if you know anything about chemical reactions, the reason why when I light this fire, water and fire are both plasma, but they're chemically different. Water is a more stable element and it's held together by a hydrogen bond. A hydrogen bond essentially means the oxygen or one side of the molecule is positive and the other side has a negative charge. What ends up happening because of this is another oxygen, the positive charge, like a magnet, connects to that hydrogen molecule or that oxygen molecule, and it creates water molecule. And it creates a lot of water from what you can see. It's more of it's stable, but it's not super stable. As you can see, water can flow anywhere. But fire, what you see is happening is the type of plasma this is. What's happening is I'm letting off gas, CO chain. I'm sorry. I'm letting off gas, CH chains, I believe it is. I could be wrong. And what that is that CH gas, when it gets into the air, I believe it's methane. I could be wrong. Like I said, Einstein said never memorize things you can look up, but that's also a fallacy. Sometimes you do need to memorize things. Just right now, I can't remember. I believe it's called a methane gas. And what happens is this is a flint. And when I spark it, when I strike it, it creates a spark. What happens is when that gas is normally released, it releases into the air and it stabilizes. What happens when I strike the flint, a chemical reaction is happening. You see that spark is a piece of metal breaking off, so to speak, to simply put it. But what you're actually seeing is a tiny explosion, a whole bunch of friction. That tiny explosion then reacts with the methane gas and causes a different chemical reaction. There is now a flame because of the amount of energy that's there. What you're seeing is the energy being released. Well, what's happening in the brain in different cells is in the mitochondria is when the oxygen is released. Actually, I'm sorry, I just lied. What you're seeing is a new element being created. What happens is when I created that spark, that gas is then turning into carbon dioxide and water. The CO, the oxygen from the CO, what ends up happening is it's released. I'm sorry, I keep doing it. The CH chains, the carbon chains, methane, whatever. What happens is the carbon and the methane are separated because of the energy. And what that does is the carbon reacts to the oxygen in the air and it creates CO, carbon dioxide. And the hydrogen connects with the other oxygen in the air and it creates hydrogen, and then the hydrogen is released and it creates hydrogen. Well, when those chemicals are released, it releases energy. That's what that fire is. It's releasing energy. It's losing energy, turning into carbon dioxide and water, CO and H2O. There's HO in there's O2 in the air. So what ends up, and there's oxygen in the air. So what ends up happening, that carbon reacts with the oxygen, creates CO, and that hydrogen reacts with the oxygens, creating water. And so what's happening is energy is being released. That's essentially what's happening in the body. When you breathe and that oxygen that's in the blood gets to a cell, it releases a bunch of energy. And that's the energy the cell uses. And it's dancing down there. So what happens is when you don't get the blood flow and you don't get the oxygen, when they say you lose your breath, what's actually happening is you're losing your energy, so to speak. It's crazy, right? So that's what happened. They shot him in the neck, hit an artery, and exploded. I think he instantly died because when he went down, I wouldn't say instantly per se, but he instantly died. Because then what's happening is as he's leaking, the heart can't pump blood like that. And when it does pump blood, it's all leaking out at an alarming rate. Because of what's happening, the heart is beating extremely fast, trying to pump oxygen to the brain, causing him to bleed faster. So the reason why this is sick to me, and a couple of different reasons, is because the world is being radicalized. And a group chat I have, I'm not going to say any names, but the group chats I was talking about, I have a bunch of different types of friends. A couple of them are conservatives, or right wing. One of them likes to drink. He was talking about how sick and fucked up this is, and he was angry and it's going to cause civil war. and he's ready with his guns as he's drinking. This is what happens. The world becomes politicized. The world becomes radical. But then what's even crazier is what upsets me, all the school shootings that's happening, all these immigrants and refugees that are being murdered. I'm seeing documentaries of African Americans still be killed in sundown towns and fully white racist towns. But Charlie Kirk is what's taking precedence all over the news. This man was a bigot. He was a racist. He was a real misogynist. He said women shouldn't be allowed to vote and they're not human. He said blacks are violent and he is a white supremacist. He mocked George Floyd. This man said empathy wasn't real. And he also said a couple of people should be shot a day to make the Second Amendment relevant. But they plaster his face all over the news. And Farrakhan taught African Americans to have power, and they labeled him as a domestic terrorist. Blocked a deal with, I believe, Gaddafi, but you might want to do research. They was trying to give America $1 billion to give African Americans reparations, and that shit got turned down so fast. And then the leader ended up dead. But y'all celebrate Nick Fuentes is who gets to go to the White House and talk to the president, and Charlie Kirk is who y'all references. Somebody in comments said Charlie Kirk is the new Martin Luther King Jr. Do you know how utterly fucking crazy that sounds? When I first went down the rabbit hole, because I knew about him, but I didn't. I mean, just video after video. I couldn't find a single video of this man talking positively about anybody but Caucasians. And he was a Zionist. Do you not realize how confusing that is? White supremacists do not like Jews. Where are y'all from? This Ukrainian immigrant gets stabbed. It's all over the news. Do you not know that there was a senator that was recently killed with their husband? And they was mocked on Fox News. How many people have been killed recently in racist attacks? I had to watch a third-party documentary about these towns in the South. 2 African Americans was recently killed when they was looking for something. They were sent to the hills. The people was like, no, you got to go this way. The townspeople knew what they was doing, the city folk. They're like, they didn't die in the city. We're not that racist. Went out into them hills and one of them got killed. Other truckers getting hanged still. Farrakhan was right. I used to say Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther King Jr. Farrakhan was right. Do you know why Malcolm X went to the Arabic lands? And do you know why he was accepted? Because he was yeller. He was yeller. These people are racist. And when when Malcolm X went to them lands, do you know what they got him to do? They got him to renounce African Americans. Do you know why? They keep saying a black man killed Malcolm X. Do you know what happened to Malcolm X? He started talking bad about the Nation of Islam in America and about African Americans. They don't teach people some of this stuff. I don't give a fuck what side you were on. Martin Luther King Jr. was an adulterer. It is what it is. If he wasn't married, I wouldn't care. But one thing y'all not finna fucking do is use that to disdain these men. But at the same time, as I tell you all, you are who you are and I am who I am. You got to build for yourself, because I don't care who you go and pick name out of a hat. Everybody's got their problems. No, I don't want people getting shot in the neck, tensing up like a spider being crushed and dying instantly after blaming African Americans for gun violence and trans people. And then the law enforcement grabbed the wrong man, strip him naked damn near because his pants is all the way to his feet, and have the wrong man. Charlie Kirk was a menace. I'm not going to get on this camera and be like, oh, it's so sad. Do you know how many people he gentrified and ridiculed in the open? When y'all see this, y'all say that's so sad, right? Y'all say he was just talking and proving a point. He wanted to sit down and have conversation. Now he has tens of 20, maybe 100 million people watching him. How many of them people think you think go to Klan rallies? How many of them people you think afterwards go find somebody calling the N-word and get in groups and acting up? Because they don't do it solo dolo. And when they do it solo dolo, they know they have the strength of the system. All you people that say, oh, it's so sad, but it's not worth blah, blah, blah. It's so sad, but it's not blah. Then why do y'all kill some of these leaders that talk in Africa? Why did y'all kill MLK and Malcolm X if talking isn't bad? And they talking about bringing people together and educating people. But y'all gonna glorify Charlie Kirk? Y'all gonna put the Pope on all these children being raped and molested? And y'all glorify the Pope's death on the news? Y'all glorify the CEO getting shot after all the people he denied health care to and killed inadvertently? Y'all gonna glorify Charlie Kirk? Did y'all know there was a school shooting this morning? I heard that man out of his mouth say some of the most disgusting shit ever. Women ain't humans and they don't deserve to vote. What's wrong with y'all, man? What the fuck is wrong with y'all? There's surgeries to get your endowment bigger now if it's that much of a problem. But what's really in y'all hearts? This man blamed African Americans and then got shot in the neck by more than likely a Caucasian man. Because y'all went for the first Caucasian y'all found. The shot was over 200 yards away. That's 2 football fields. In an archery. First they tried to shoot Trump. Twice. People are crashing out over this psychotic hate shit, man. I'm telling y'all they are. They can't take it no more. I'm not saying that y'all know how I feel. It's in the commandments that I post. Thou shalt not kill and murder. But who am I? Y'all create these rabbit holes in these psychotic channels, in these crazy hate groups. Immigrants have EINs. That's to pay taxes. They don't have social security numbers. So they was paying billions of taxes, working for damn near nothing, helping the poor and helping the corporations. And y'all go after them. The Supreme Court just passed a law, and they're about to pass a law dealing with homosexual marriages. They already put it all in the news. Trump is about to overturn it. You guys are talking about it's not legal. There's 5 out of 9 Supreme Court judges. One of them is a Hispanic. And you know the law they just passed this morning? Or was it last night? Okay, if you talk Spanish, if you look a certain way, they just passed the law to where they can detain you and question you. Do you know how long African Americans fought to have any of this shit not happen? You know what the civil rights are? How many names do y'all have for African Americans for the N-word in Spanish that I just watched over the last 4 or 5 years? How many of y'all groups running up on African Americans calling us names and cussing us out in names? Yeah, there's plenty of y'all who have awakened and are not like that. But there are millions of people in a population, and y'all tens of hundreds of thousands do not dictate the flow of the current. So I'm glad that you're awakened and you're a good ally, but you don't understand the statistics of the situation. Now they can run up on y'all and detain y'all if y'all are speaking Spanish. That's scary as fuck to me. That is terrifying. I don't speak Spanish. This doesn't have anything to do with me. But remember that empathy thing I was talking about that Charlie Kirk said isn't real? Empathy isn't real? What the fuck are you talking about? These are the type of motherfuckers that send people up and get people murdered. They just had to arrest somebody in the UK, some super right-wing dude, for the person that went and shot this church up because he was going down his rabbit hole. This shit is crazy. And I don't understand when people, this guy told me in a comment, he said, it's so sad what happened to Charlie Kirk. Or he said something, and I responded. I was like, the guy was a bigot and a Nazi. And this dude responded by, keep chimping around. You think it's funny that a man died? And I said, keep chimping around. I said, what? He said, I didn't stutter. And then I laughed at his comment and said, did you stutter typing on a keyboard? Can you stutter typing on a keyboard? And then he put a picture of a chimp jumping around. And I said, the irony of Caucasians who have genetically mutated out of Homo sapien DNA into Neanderthalic DNA, which is a genetic abnormality, calling people apes. They're a literal form of view of evolution, and they still don't believe in evolution. So back to the current topic at hand. These people go out into the world hateful because of what they see and hear. I told y'all about crime. 70% of Caucasians commit crime. It's on the statistics crime charts. 6,000 murders, 7,000 murders unsolved, on top of the 1,500 to 2,500 murders that have happened. That's almost 8,000 murders. But they call us the murder capital because of how they treat things. They're lying to everybody with propaganda. If you do history on ancient Europe, these people were dwelling around campfires around certain lakes and in caves in the Anglo-Saxon region, in the mountains of Norway and Sweden, in these places, and they mingled into civilization around 400 or 500 AD. And then Muhammad appears alongside with a whole bunch of light-skinned Arabic people after all these Byzantine-like movements. But people don't want to hear it. They're psychologically stuck in a system where they believe that having a certain skin color is better for their health in a world that receives ultraviolet radiation. I cannot make it up. I convert the sun into vitamin D. I don't have to drink milk and only have to eat certain meats and breads and can survive. But people aren't listening. How many people did Charlie Kirk send out to murder people? How many people did Charlie Kirk send out to start vicious movements? Please, after you're done watching me, type in documentary of Nazis in Ukraine and we'll find one from over 10 years ago from the BBC. And then find a documentary from the BBC talking about, is Putin lying about Nazis in Ukraine? Why are they rescuing all these Nazis? What is Operation Paperclip? Their views align with what the government wants to happen. Whether you're left, right, up, down. But don't play and say that the left is the same as the right now. Because there might be some deep governmental weird stuff going on at the top. But I see many people fighting their hearts out to stop these Nazis and these racists. I don't glorify any man's death. But in war, I don't go to my enemy's grave and then go, thank you for having a bunch of my people killed, RIP. This system is satanic. And I really wish that people will understand that no matter what side you're on, the longer you all throw propaganda out there, the longer you all radicalize people, the more hatred you spread about any community, in the end, the civilians are going to eat that shit up and vomit it on the innocent people of that ethnicity. I, for 2 hours last night, stomached Charlie Kirk's videos. And afterwards, my consciousness would not let me feel. The only thing, I watched an up close version of what happened to the side. And I saw the direct contact with the artery and the explosion of the artery, the crack of the sniper rifle, and his body flinch up and him fall. That shit broke my heart. At that moment, I don't know anybody else, but I saw an innocent human. Even if I had to put him in the soul of an animal, I saw an innocent animal being hunted by a vicious poacher, if you will. That's all I could think about. Not say that's humanizing him. I'm saying it was the sickest shit I ever seen. But at the same time, when I look at his character, I think to myself, why do people do things like this and then expect peace? I wish the world a better place. I wish you all would become more aware and understand what you're doing. Whether you're the one involved or whether you're the general public that's radicalizing yourselves, allowing yourself to eat this slop. There was a school shooting this morning. Rest in peace, children.